manpower like more or less, more so. Oh my dog, it's bigger than hip hop.
Things going on. You say it's puppy love. We say it's full grown.
Season 3.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Rap of Ages Season 3, our podcast. We're breaking down the best hip hop hits from Y2K, talking about what was happening, why it was popular, what they were thinking, and where it all went wrong.
Where did it all go wrong, Brian?
It went wrong nowhere because we are done. We are talking about the recap. So everything, we're just hitting the highlights. Nothing could possibly have gone wrong. So once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm DJ Turntable.
And I'm Jared Johnson. And if you don't know that late 90s and early 2000s hip hop isn't safe for work, small children, or your little virgin ears, well, we don't know how to help you.
You're completely on your own. And as always, check us out on social media and wherever you get your podcasts. We're up on iTunes, Google, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube Music, and Spotify.
Hit us up on that social thing at ROA Podcast on Insta and Twitter, Rap of Ages Podcast on Facebook, Rap of Ages Podcast at Gmail, and of course, don't forget to hit up the reading list on Nook.
Hit us up on
Nook. For the hip hop heads, we're still pumping out the Evolutions mixtapes on the same podcast feeds. For more and links to every possible way to listen, don't forget to check out the webpage, rapofages.com, or just shout, play Rap of Ages podcast at your device.
You should do that. And also, if you like the show, you should tell people how awesome we are on whatever platform you are getting Rap of Ages from. Subscribe and rate us also. Super, super helpful. And if you don't like us, you can still send all pigeon post to the upstate New York farm where Jared is still secluding and quarantining as we speak.
Yeah, thankfully the snow has melted, so you will be able to get up the driveway.
Now you're just stuck in the mud. Yay, springtime in New York.
Send him a raven.
But most importantly, and always, thank you for listening. So, recap?
Guys, my first season. Recap.
You made it!
Yay.
We made it.
Congratulations.
Oh, what a
Cue
time.
applause.
What a time.
After the say congratulations. And you're
Jared
welcome.
Johnson, your first season in the books. How do you feel?
I feel fantastic. I think, I think it took us a little time to gel together and realize and not, step on each other's feet. But I really enjoyed myself, and I think that we covered a nice range of music this season. I think we really drew from kind of all corners of the hip hop world.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was a lot of fun in terms of kind of going all over, not just the East and the West. And I totally hear you too. That was one thing I thought was funny is you don't really know the dynamics from going to like 2 to 3 people, but it completely changes it. And once you get the groove though, it's so much it's so much better. I think when you can get that third dynamic in there. So,
Well, thank you guys for
So,
having me.
speaking of threes, what were your top 3 things you learned this season, Jared Johnson?
What are the 3 things I learned? I learned that Brian had never listened to Dead Prez before. And we opened his mind to that album. And honestly, I think that was the best part of this season was that Brian got exposed to this incredible album.
I would totally agree with that. That was definitely one of my favorites because I'm sitting there and like we said before, it was funny you guys wanted to cover it and I'm like, why would we cover this thing? And then after you listen to it, you're just like, how could we not cover this thing? So yeah, that was awesome.
And on the flip side, I think I just enjoy researching and learning about these artists, even artists like Little Bow Wow, where it's like, I don't particularly like him or his music that much, but it's just learning about the artists and what they've gone through and how, just everything behind it. I think there's always something to learn and something fun to talk about with these songs. I'm glad we did Common as well. Common Delight is I just love that song. It's just special to me in my heart.
it was interesting where this season it was hard because I don't know. I'm looking back, but I always feel like we had like half really really good songs, half crap songs that were popular. And I look back at this list and I'm like, there's not a lot of bad things on here. Like we had more, I think, last couple seasons. Like if we had 1 5-star rating, that would have been good. And we had a couple this year that were just like spot on. So this is a really, there wasn't a lot of crap. There was some crap, but it was a really special year for music, and it was a lot of it was a lot of fun. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I totally agree. Like going in and like researching and seeing for better or for worse where they came from. That's always one of the most fun things. And to that point, to that research point, the one thing I would say I was disappointed. Now, if I look back, so what's the thing that was most disappointing to me was, I think season 1, if it wasn't a funny song, it may have an incredible story for how the song came to be. And I'm trying to think back to everything that we talked about in the different songs, but the artist I think had some really interesting stories and interesting times, but I there weren't a lot of stories for the individual songs that we covered as to like this wacky thing happened and this is how this song came to be. That was kind of surprising that especially as the season drew on, I kept looking for that because I'm like, there's got to be one of these, and there just wasn't. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Dave?
So my 3 things that I'm glad I learned this season. I'm going to do 3 plus a bonus.
Ooh.
It takes approximately 252 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop.
Science.
So that was fun to learn. I've been waiting my whole life for that.
You read how to read a 10K or 10Q, whatever you were reading?
Yes, indeed. Whatever that is. I don't know what the words are that you're saying.
The stock. Didn't you go through the company financials for Tootsie Roll?
Oh yes, the Tootsie Roll financials. I did in-depth year-to-year analysis.
David's sat in on a few board meetings. He's a major shareholder now.
It was almost as entertaining as reading ODB's FBI file. The second thing I learned is that you should not let your 6-year-old go on tour with Snoop. But that does make him an original Dog Pound gangster.
Can I ask,
OG DPG?
When you say
indeed.
you learned that, does that mean that prior to this podcast, you would have allowed your children to go on tour, and this has now advised you against that?
Let's just say Dave's already been contacted by a few artists about his 2 boys, but now he's having second thoughts.
Twins are in high demand in the rap world.
It's true.
We'll look over the financials and get back to you on that.
Now that you know how to do that.
Indeed. And I would say the third thing I learned this season was that Erykah Badu fucks.
Yes, agree. That's one way to put it. But yes, that was definitely one of mine. I'm like, she's in everything.
Yeah, guys get
Literally
hung.
was
Guys
an
get hung
inspiration.
up.
Mm-hmm.
They got it twisted. They got it bad for Erykah Badu. And I will say, as a bonus, I learned how deep Brian's love for Post Malone was this season.
Mm-hmm. That's true. If I can follow that train of thought, though, we're sitting there, not the Post Malone thought, the Erykah Badu, into the artists we didn't cover, because usually we talk about that, right? We talk about what songs didn't we cover, and obviously there's a bunch here, but also Erykah Badu, she was hot in '97. She had an album and a couple songs in 2000, 2001, so we could have covered her. Can I tell you? I went back through. And I'm like, I know her voice so vividly. I'm like, what are some of her songs? And like, there wasn't a lot to cover. Like, I feel like we needed to cover Erykah Badu because we talk so much about her. But I'm like, is there anything that we missed by not Nope. there wasn't anything that we missed. So I think
I
she
mean,
was
she
just
reminds me of like Alicia Keys, right? Like she has some hits, but like she's kind of like you can listen to a whole album and vibe out to her, but it's not like
that's right.
she had a lot of huge radio play hits.
Yeah, I think she had that On and Tyrone, and then she's featured on a lot of stuff though. Like she's big
Yep.
on like the Roots
Call
albums. And,
Tyrone.
yeah.
Yeah. No, but
But who else on that thread though? Who did we not cover this season that you regret not covering?
I know we didn't cover Dave's favorite Jay-Z song of all time, which was super popular in the year 2000, which is Big Pimpin'. It's his absolute favorite song.
The best. Jay-Z at his very, very best.
Mhm.
And then there were a couple other ones that like not kind of rap that we didn't cover. Like the number one song of the year 2000 was actually the Queen Bee and her old group. And it was Say My Name, Say My Name. That was the number one song. And oh yes,
Not
Queen
not
Bey.
Queen Bee.
Sorry,
The other Queen,
Queen
Bee.
Bey.
Queen Bey. Queen Bey. Yes, we covered the Queen Bee.
Queen
But the
Bey.
number one song was Say My Name, and obviously we didn't cover Destiny's Child or Beyonce.
That was the number one song of the whole year?
Yep.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. I remember when we talked about the track list for the year, I was like looking at the hip hop albums of the year. I was like, well, Eminem, Marshall Mathers LP, obviously we have to talk about that. There's a Busta Rhymes album. There was I think another one that you guys had covered before, and then I realized I had just kind of missed the boat on that. But some of the other ones I saw there's the
great
Ghostface
song.
album. The song "Cherchez La Ghost"
Tony
came out that year. That was a great song.
Is on the road.
I think
And yeah, I think we covered a good amount of songs here, and really just got a wide variety of artists and depth in each of the songs and the lyrics.
Are you sad we didn't cover Beanie Man's Girls Dem Sugar? Nah, 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 nah.
I loved Beanie Man.
But we mentioned that
Beanie Man.
in Nelly's song, I
CD
think,
Man.
didn't we? Or one of
We
the Beanie
mentioned there
Man
was a
songs.
Sim Sima reference.
Or Sim Sima.
That's
Sim
when,
Sima.
You know, Ja Rule was
Yep.
also putting it on people.
Yeah.
Come on and put it on me.
Stop yelling about your junk.
All in all, I had a lot of fun. I thought it was it was a great season. It was a lot of fun to get the third leg of the tripod, the strongest, sturdiest third leg
The middle
I've
leg.
ever seen.
I got your third leg right here.
And I like the songs that we covered. And yes, that was definitely my highlight. Going back to it was Dead Prez. Again, listen to Dead Prez, everyone. Please listen to Dead Prez.
Turns out they were right about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think we should mention also.
Go ahead.
Just that this, I don't remember when we started recording this season, which month it was in 2020, but it was a fucking insane year that we just had. The coronavirus, and we mentioned this before on the podcast about all the police brutality and systemic racism, and how we mentioned a lot of that in the Dead Prez podcast as well. But just a lot of shit, a lot of terrible, fucked up things happened this year, and I'm hoping that we're close to being on the other side of that right now. But this whole podcast kind of spanned, this whole past year of this pandemic and everything else that was going on has just kind of been in the background throughout all of this, and just thought we should acknowledge that too.
We've also recorded this podcast from, I want to say, between the three of us, no less than 7 different locations.
Yeah. That is true. I've done 3. I don't know. Dave's done at least
done
3.
at least 3. Through 3 moves, I think, for both Jared and I.
Yep.
Back surgery and international travel during a pandemic. We have tried to cobble this season together to bring to you a little bit of levity and a little bit of fun throughout, what's been otherwise a pretty terrible year um, in the States and pretty much everywhere. Um, so, yeah, it's been nice having this. It's been fun. I'm a little sad we didn't cover Emmy award-winning artist
Sip,
36
sip, sip.
Mafia. Sipping on some scissor. But we'll get to them. We'll get to them. Don't worry. They keep getting better. They're like a fine scissor. Gets better with age.
I have nothing good to add
Gotta
to this
let it
conversation.
settle.
That is nothing good.
I heard 90,
I would say-
96 was a good year for the Tussin.
That's right, that 96 vintage Tussin, we're gonna break out a bottle.
Mwah.
So much horribleness. But even too, one of the things that like I thought did come out of the pandemic that was good, especially I think for the podcast, is like we also switched recording. So on top of the moves too, we switched a lot of recording platforms. I mean, just the digital capabilities. I just think back to when we were trying this at the very beginning 3 years ago, what we were doing, like trying to do everything over Skype. And now there's so many different platforms. I know that we don't have a video part of our podcast yet. But now, like before, we were all just kind of guessing everything was over audio because we turned off the video for Skype because it just knocked out everything. But now we're on a platform we can actually see each other. So like the digital, the digital advancements that even from the beginning of the season till now, and the platforms that are coming up for this medium, is really cool, and it definitely shows no signs of stopping. So one positive in a sea of shit to come out of this past year.
It's a beautiful image, Brian.
Yes. And
the
Brian,
sea of
maybe you and I should take a minute to thank David for his tireless editing and pushing, and because this,
Oh, yeah.
not sure we would, nothing would come of this. Although I must say, I would do this with you guys without recording anything because it's just fun to just get together and talk, early hip hop with you guys.
Agreed.
But thank you,
I
you,
totally
Dave.
agree. Oh, you're very welcome. Before we sign off, what's next for Rap of Ages? What can our tens and tens of followers look forward to?
If you smell, I think we got to keep going, right? We got to hit 2001.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we have to.
Look out for some early 2000s hip hop. Look out for some more mixtapes, some more skits, some more of that funky stuff. And who knows, could be some bonus tracks. So listen all the way to the end of the album. You never know what's going to be there.
I was out by myself.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
Indeed.
Any last words?
Our way for life.
Just looking forward to season 4.
Be good. Stay safe. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. We love you. Thank you for listening.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace.
Boom. So, of course, we've finally record our podcast. We start pushing it out. And just as we are pushing out the podcast, we get the news that DMX and Black Rob end up not being with us. And this is obviously everything that we said was all pre the knowledge that DMX and Black Rob have passed on. So we felt the need to at least talk about that a little bit because obviously we're just curious if like it, does any of our thoughts or opinions change based on the fact that now they were who they were, but now they're no longer with us. So now that we've seen their careers, we've seen their lives, like do our thoughts or feelings change? Dave, I thought maybe I pass it to you because I thought you'd had a really good way of laying it out. Is even though these two, they had hot songs, hot tracks. They're both hot at the same time. 20 years later, took very different personal life journeys, and kind of what you thought about what DMX meant versus what Black Rob meant. Was super was different. So I thought maybe maybe you could give us a little bit on your thoughts on what Black Rob meant versus what DMX meant.
Yeah, so DMX was represented a totally new sound. Like, we had never heard anything like him before. And having that kind of his delivery, I mean, we've talked all about it. And so, like, he had a unique voice, and I was watching the preview. I guess there's a barbershop episode where Jay-Z's talking about him, and he's like, comes on stage, you know, goes out, he's got all the guys yelling, takes off his shirt, he's got all the women yelling, then he's like doing his prayer song, everybody's crying in the audience, and like, that mix of like hardcore and then this like reflective Christian themes and the prayers, and he goes on to be like a deacon and all of this. There's just like nobody quite like DMX, and he really had his moment, like between 98 and maybe 2003. And so he'll always go down as one of the greats in hip hop, someone who like brought a unique sound, totally different perspective. I think both of these guys are similar in that they didn't evolve a ton. Um, and Black Rob is kind of your quintessential like one hit wonder industry guy, and really is this awful now example of like how the rap industry treats artists. And barely got paid on his deal, never finished it out, ignored in prison. We talked about like the healthcare issues. He had a GoFundMe. Jared was talking about him being on dialysis before, and how little time he may have left. And to just literally get hung up to dry like that while Puffy's rolling in it, and the rest of Bad Boy just keeps going on, and he's just a victim of the industry, unfortunately. But yeah, both these guys really had their moment 20 years ago. And, I don't think as many people are going to remember Black Rob, but they should remember what the industry did to Black Rob. And they should remember, what DMX did for the game, to the game, and you're not going to see another one like him. Could there be better than him? Maybe. But no one's going to have that same style the way he did it.
Yeah, I think it's sad that what happened to him, and it's sad that it's so common in the music industry where these artists who a lot of times come from nothing and like all they want to do is get a record deal, and they're not business people, they're not business savvy. You go to a record label who has an army of lawyers and they sign you up, you sign on the dotted line, and that's it. And you know Puff Daddy is just about the bottom line, and like that's, I think he showed that again and again, and a lot of bad boy artists have come out after parting ways with him, saying the same thing. Mace has been very vocal about it. The Locks had that whole thing where they left Bad Boy and went to Rough Rider, and it's sad. It's sad that somebody can have such a big impact and end up at the end of his life with like no money, no place to live, and while Puffy is just rolling in the dough.
I want to talk a little bit about the health stuff too, and just DMX. I don't think all the information is probably ever going to come out, but it looks like it was an overdose. I don't know if you guys heard any differently. It seems like they wanted to keep that sealed up a little bit, and then Black Rob, a series of health issues, likely related to years of alcohol and drug abuse. Um, and then, talking about DMX with mental health as well, all of the prison issues, the other things, the sort of I don't know what he was necessarily diagnosed with, but you have those really the two sides to him, and I think a lot of this stuff, like hip hop back in the day, even today, like glorifies a lot of doing drugs, like living that lifestyle, drinking, partying, all of that. And this is two cases of these guys are not old, like they're maybe 10 years older than us in their mid 40s. um and after 2 decades of all of that, going real young.
I think Jared, I think you said when you saw Black Rob saw the news, it was the video of him seeing the news of DMX's death, and he's laying in bed, I think, on dialysis, and yeah, mid-40s, and he like you even said it was maybe 2 or 3 days before his death. You're like, "Yeah, he's not long for this world," because he looked like he's in his late 70s, and he was like laid up, missing teeth, and it's rough
Yeah,
shape.
well, he had posted it. He had posted like a video on Instagram or something after DMX died, and he was in the hospital, and he looked terrible. He's looked just the past couple of years, like
Yeah.
he looks so old, and I feel like there's a lot of similarities to sports, and I know there've been like a lot of documentaries about these sports players who come, they get signed. A lot of them also come from nothing, and
Mhm.
there's just no forethought. And you, in the moment, you'd think, yeah, I'm the best right now. It's going to last forever. And a
Mhm.
lot of these guys, their careers are over, in their 20s and 30s. And it's like you have the whole rest of your life to live. And the one thing that you poured everything into and that you were great at, like you can't do that anymore.
And then you have
And I don't
somebody
know if
like
there's any,
Puffy,
yeah,
yeah, who's sitting there and saying like, "I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you." And like he is taking care of you while you're making money. He said he asked him for $10,000, gets $10,000. Asked him for another $15,000 a month later, he gets another 15,000. But then when he comes out of prison, and all of a sudden Black Rob's not hot anymore, then he's not answering phone calls, doesn't have anything to fall back on.
yeah. You don't think when you sign these contracts, you get X amount of money, you're supposed to produce this many albums. I was just, there's something they call a standard contract where you're supposed to produce, 5 to 7 albums and turn over all your songwriting royalties for X amount of years. And that's like, you may not know that time. That's where the money comes from, all the royalties and the publishing and like the masters that you don't own. Everybody's making money off you for years and years and years when your career is over with.
So favorite lines, either DMX, Black Rob, both, or stories, moments, whatever you got.
For me personally, DMX, like you said, he's just, there was nobody like him, nobody been like him since. He's just, I don't know if there's ever been a more appropriate name for somebody than Darkman X, because he's just so like dark, like just grimy. He's just a gritty, grimy rapper. And I remember in in high school when his first album came out, I distinctly remember. I think "Get at Me, Dog" was the first single, but "Rough
Hmm.
Riders Anthem" was like just, that was the one. And Monday Night Raw was coming to Binghamton, and Eric Jackson and I skipped school in the morning to go wait online for tickets at the arena. And that had come out pretty recently, and we had his Walkman, and we had one headphone in each, and we just memorized Rough Riders Anthem. Like that's what we did for that morning, waiting in line, and we had it down after that. And just like, yeah, that just used to bump. You would just hear that in every single car for like months after that came out.
That's amazing.
And, I've listened to a lot of DMX, mostly early DMX, a lot. And, one of my favorite lines is still one of his lighter lines from one of his poppier songs from Party Up, where DMX is talking about, you know, fake people. And he says, "Y'all as characters, you're not even good actors. What's gonna be the outcome? Let's add up all the factors. You're whack, you're twisted, your girl's a hoe. Broke, kid ain't yours, and everybody knows. Your old man say you're stupid, you'd be like, so, I love my baby mother, I'll never let her go." I just love him giving it to whoever this is, and just like spending that amount of time to insult somebody. Uh, is just terrific. And of course, this is a song called Party Up. Let's have fun. What's DMX doing? DMX stuff.
Talk about killing people. Can I talk about killing people? It's a party, D. Do you want to have some fun? I have fun killing people.
No, I'm going to call this dude a bitch ass and whoop his ass. That's how I party.
When we were, when I was thinking about this, I actually wrote down like he's such a gritty, grimy rapper that even his song called "Party Up," like there's no mention of the whole song is about killing people, and like there's no mention of party anywhere in the song. The chorus is "I lose my mind, I go all out, act a fool," and then the last line of the song is "Grandma's wishing your soul's at rest, but it's hard to digest with the size of the hole in your chest." Party! Let go! That's it.
Party time.
Party time.
Party time.
Oh no, but with that, it's so like, so Black Rob, when he died, everybody was like, "Oh man, Black Rob died too." But like with DMX, it was like people were still saying R.I.P. DMX in like the immediate internet age of like a month later. Like people have been so impacted by DMX. Like I think I don't think I really appreciated how much everybody loved DMX.
I mean, there hasn't been a rapper death this big since Pac and Biggie. And I'll say it because DMX, and here's what I'll say, a lot of really good rappers have passed in the last 20 years, but nobody with a career as long as DMX. He was putting out albums until like 2015, I think was his last like album that wasn't like a rehash of old stuff. And there's a couple new things out now that are sort of rehashes and random singles. But like you're talking from 98 to 2015, and he was doing stuff before that. That's a serious career.
I was always hard on DMX, but like that was the one thing I remember, just because like I loved him so much. I think I mentioned before he was my favorite rapper, bar none.
All right, Brian, favorite DMX line.
You nailed it. That was the one. That was so I don't have another one. That was my other one. I just wanted to mention just as hard as I was on him, how much I loved him and how much just he transcended music, I think. Like he was relatable to everyone, even though he was just a grimy guy talking about killing. I don't which is
It's
just so
really
weird.
impressive. It's quite a feat
It
to
really
have
is.
17 years of albums about
And
killing
all the
people.
same. All the same. But and
And
you know, it's the consistency. You know what you're getting.
It's true. But he's had a rough life.
a rough ride,
A rough
would you say?
ride.
Hi-oh. Nailed it.
Just not to leave Black Rob totally in the dust. And I can't say I'm nearly as big an aficionado of Black Rob songs. I just still very much appreciate the line from Woe, where apropos of nothing, grenade through your window, bitch.
Surprise!
It's a non sequitur. It has nothing to do with the song, and it makes me giggle. I enjoy it.
It's fantastic.
Like
BR.
whoa.
Like, whoa. Any last thoughts?
Just
R.I.P. DMX. R.I.P. Black Rob. Gone too soon. Take care of your health. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your physical health.
Eat an apple.
We'll see you on the other side.
All dogs go to heaven.
Peace.
Peace.